you founded the company in 1999, 23 years ago. But you've been at it for twice as many years, right? So
Right.
tell me a little bit about your journey to where you are today and really what got you interested in doing this in the first place?
Well, it's a long journey because I'm 72. But I mean, it started when I was 14 and I did my first ask of a potential
Mhm.
donor for a saddle club, a horseback riding club that I belonged to in Minnesota.
Fabulous.
So that was
Uh-huh.
forever ago. Um, and then when I moved to Alaska, when I went to Alaska in 1971, I went up there just to help start a nonprofit organization called the Northern Alaska Environmental Center. And I just never left. And I got so wrapped up in helping that organization raise the funds they needed to do their good work that it really, it sort of, it was my career path. I mean, there was no option for me. I knew that what I was good at was asking people to give money to the projects that I felt like deserved it, or did deserve it. And so,
Mhm.
for many years, I worked with the nonprofit environmental organizations in Alaska.
Mhm.
And then I went into public radio and television, where I became a development director in Fairbanks, Alaska. And and then when I left the public radio and television, I the mayor of the Fairbanks North Star Borough asked me if I would start um, a community economic development center, and I didn't even know what that was. I don't think any of us knew what it was. We started that in the 80s. It took off. It did great things, and when about 8 or 9 years into that, I sort of woke up one morning and I thought, I could do my own business here. And so I
Mhm.
started a small business called the Alaska Funding Exchange. And for 10 years,
Mhm.
to, I would fly into native villages all over Alaska and teach grant writing and grant seeking and how to do the research and how to put
Mm.
together proposals. And, I slept on the gym floor and got up and taught 7 people from the village how to write proposals where English was a second language. It
Wow.
was, and I did that for 10 years. And part of that, of the work I did with the funding exchange, was to develop this internal database of grant makers that I used on a regular basis.
Mhm.
And then one day I thought, I could take this national. You know, I should I should sell the funding exchange, pull my little database out of there and go national. And that's
Mhm.
what I did.
So that was the genesis of the company. Great, of
That was the
GrantStation.
genesis of the company.
Right. So when you initially founded it, you took about $1 million in angel and bank loans to get it started. And I know you've got about 60,000 members. Do your members pay to be part of GrantStation? How do you fund yourself?
Well, now, yeah, the members, it's a membership based system. So our
Mhm.
members, you become a member of GrantStation for a year,
Right.
and you can renew or not renew. And we have a very high renewal rate. And
Mhm.
that income from those members is what now fuels the company. Um, we did
Right.
take, when I started GrantStation, I had no clue, Carol. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. Really, I didn't. I mean,
Yeah.
here I was, this
Good.
this idea. We
Mhm.
were up against our only competitor at that point, which was in 1999, was the Foundation Center, which was based in New York City. It had a multiple $1 million a year budget.
Right.
It was funded by grant makers from all over the country.
Mhm.
We had nothing. We were in a one-room cabin, uh, without running water, 12 miles north of Fairbanks, Alaska, in the woods. It
Mhm.
was three
Mhm.
women. We all lived in the neighborhood. and we started GrantStation. And, it's,
That's funny.
as you know, it's grown tremendously and the brand is strong,
Yeah.
but we didn't know what we were up against. If we would have known what we were up against, we might not have done it. But
Right. Right.
yeah, it was a challenge. It was a real challenge. And I didn't bring the $1 million in all at once. I really didn't know what I needed, um,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't understand. I guess I didn't understand the complexity of the kind of business I was trying to do. A
Mm-hmm.
national business is much different than a business that just served Alaska, which is what the Alaska
Right.
Funding Exchange was. And so here I
Mm-hmm.
was, going national and not really understanding some basics when it comes to business management. I mean, I was
Mm-hmm.
really
So,
clueless in a few
yeah.
areas.
So, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's always something I want to talk about is, leading a company like this and not having any clue. How did you learn? Was it just through expensive mistakes? Did you find mentors? An advisory board?
Yeah, no,
How did
yeah,
you
I
learn?
should have done those things, but mainly, it was by instinct and by my gut
Mm,
feeling about things. We didn't
yeah.
make too many huge mistakes, which we just lucked out
Mhm.
probably. I did have a
Mhm.
couple of mentors. There was a man in New York City who ran a real estate company who was, he still is very well known, and was a friend. And I remember one day
Mhm.
calling him up and in tears practically and saying, Fred, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm worried. I go to bed every night just sick to my stomach because I don't think I'll have enough money at the end of the week to make payroll or to whatever it was I needed to pay rent or whatever it
Mhm.
was. And he kind of scratched his head and he said, let's step back let's take a few steps back. And do you have a cash flow? And I said, no, I don't have any cash flow projections. He said, okay, well,
Right.
that's going to make a big difference, my dear. And he sent me to, I think it was the Wells Fargo website, had a free cash flow worksheet you could
Mhm.
download, whether you're a Wells Fargo client or not. And I did
Mhm.
that and I started using that cash flow sheet and realized I didn't have a problem. And I didn't have to go to sleep every night worried. And it was, for me, it was a big breakthrough in knowing that
Mm.
indeed I did have the money coming in to cover my expenses. I just didn't realize it.
Right.
And I didn't, the timing was off and I didn't understand. So that was
Yeah.
a big thing. So learning that kind of thing, there was a lot of those sort of small moments when, my banker, not the banker itself that gave me the bank loan, but his assistant, she took me aside one day and we had coffee and she said, let me explain to you how this can work. And she explained to me how the loan could work for me, how I could best
Mhm.
use this loan and line of credit. There was a line of credit that went with it. Just that explanation, that one-on-one hand holding, it helped tremendously.
Mhm.
It
I
really
bet it
taught me a
did.
lot about
Yeah.
finances.
Cynthia, when did you all move out of the one-room cabin and into civilization to run your business?
You mean where we had a bathroom?
Yes, where you had a bathroom and where you had running water.
Yeah. um, let's see. I think it was 2002 that we moved
So you
into
stayed in
an
the cabin
office
for 3 years.
um, in a strip mall, in the back of the strip mall in Fairbanks, and
Mhm.
actually hired another person or two.
Got it. So that's when you started hiring people.
Yeah.
Carol Schultz here. Thanks for watching this excerpt from Authentically Successful. The conversation doesn't end there. So if you want to hear this episode in full and all my conversations with many other successful founders and CEOs, please visit verticalelevation.com/podcast.